This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
As a human being, as a father, as a business owner, to be able to slow down and more specifically, not hurry, especially with kids. I want to be present like that. And presence doesn't mean like, oh, I spent the whole week with them, but I'm on my cell phone. It means I spent 10 minutes with them having an impactful, good conversation.
All right, folks, time for the adventure. I can tell you that I'm laughing at myself because if I think about my adventures growing up, they were like, if I'm really going on an adventure, we got to go maybe every other year to Colorado. And my version of an adventure would be putting in an iPod. And it was that's what it was called back then, which was wild. And going down a Black Diamond, trying to chase my brother in Aspen. This was my version of an adventure. My dreams of adventures outside of that, like for being in the courage business, never would it be like my current guest, Knight Campbell, who I would say you are an adventurous CEO. And would you disagree with this? Like, this is what you're shooting for, yes?
Was this kind of our jam? Yeah, taking people on adventures is one of my core values, adventure.
And how we met, it seems that you live just down the street from me, but like Navy, not only the Navy, but Naval Academy, yes?
Naval Academy, flew helicopters for a while, got to go teach at the Naval Academy again, and then got out to support my wife doing orthopedic surgery. So she's my adventure buddy.
And that forced you to San Diego. Poor you. Are you okay?
Yeah, we cope with it.
Well, do me a favor also. Can you share a little bit about your leadership firm?
We help small growing businesses build leadership capacity to scale. And we do that by figuring out what's going on with the team and then putting them in wildly uncomfortable situations like hanging off the side of a mountain or rock climbing or whitewater rafting, which brings out all of the good things to facilitate powerful conversations around.
I mean, for those of you who are in your car that are listening, doesn't Knight have, like, I think I have a good voice, but Knight's voice is way, like, you sound like a SEAL. You sound like Naval Academy to me. Yeah, I'm assuming you get this from time to time, yeah?
We get a lot of training there on our voices, yeah.
I mean, it is the Batman-esque voice. It's an awesome voice. So I'm pumped to have you on. It's been really cool getting to go get coffee and learn about your life and what a surprise, intentionality, discipline, taking companies or leaders on the adventure. And it's like in those moments where the good stuff happens. And how did you know that this was what you wanted to do? Like, did you know, or was this not what you wanted to do? And here we are. This is where you landed.
Long story short, I was in a PhD program that I couldn't stand, talking to my coach and saying that I needed to be outside more. I love teaching leadership. Teaching at the Naval Academy was one of the highlights of my career in the military. And she said, well, why don't you just stop the PhD program and take leaders outside to teach leadership? So that is the moment that catalyzed where we are today. And I'd say just wasn't the right word there, but it's been a fun journey.
I mean, maybe this is a silly question, but keep me honest. Is nature a value of yours?
Nature is actually not a value. I love nature. I love being outdoors. Joy and adventure are two of my values. And I think nature brings those, like it provides opportunities for adventure for sure. And I think there's just immense joy in being outside with other cool people, having conversations outside, and just seeing clients do things they didn't believe they could do in a microcosm of getting to the top of a rock climb or making to the top of a mountain or just whitewater rafting. It seems pretty easy to me, but some people have never been on a river and it's terrifying. And seeing them overcome those things, right, to my children, 3-year-old, 6-year-old, kind of 4-month-old too. He doesn't do too much adventure yet, although he has been backpacking, seeing their joy in discovering things outside and just seeing a butterfly. So yeah, nature's part is wrapped up into a lot of my core values. But
I'm trying to remember now if I stumbled into you or you stumbled into me. I think I somehow found your website, and classic Ryan Berman moment was like, "Brr, hey, we're both here." And the reason I bring that up, one, I think when I moved to San Diego, which we're now, I can't believe, over 20 years ago, at first I was like, well, logic should win out. Like, it's so beautiful here. You can be outside year round, but also sometimes we undervalue. Like, when I wake up in the morning, I know I'm in a good mood. And I'm afraid to admit this a little bit because I'm about to get myself in trouble. But when I lived in New York City, which was 5 hours away from my family, it was like I was close enough that if for some reason someone needed to get to me, mom, dad, or I needed to get home, I could do it. But once they knew I was moving west, it was like, oh boy, this boomerang might not boomerang, like I might be stuck out in the west. This is their words. And I remember my mom leaving a voicemail of the weather report outside of DC. It's raining, it's snowing. 1-minute message, 2-minute message. You're like, do I have to listen to the whole? Like, do I tell her the weather report here? And it probably took me 6 months till I realized she wasn't telling me the weather report. She was telling me her mood. She was telling me if it was cloudy out, she felt cloudy. If it was rainy out, she might have felt like a little rainy on the inside. And I'm like, wow, like I'm very grateful. I'm sure you feel the same way being in the land of nature and adventure, that at least I wake up on the right foot in a good mood. Once I open up my email, who knows where it goes from there, but like at least we're starting off in the right foot. What you've created with your business, I'd say 10 years into my journey or my adventure, I realized, wow, I want to create other constructs outside of a boardroom with whiteboards where we can get people out of their normal traditional element, and like that's where the magic happens. And so give the listener a little bit of what happens. Like what happens to people when they're out of their normal element. And even now, like hybrid work or whatever this is, like we're just stuck in a little square box on Zoom, and we're expected to really have meaningful dialogue. Like talk through what it's like to go on an adventure with you.
I need a couple more hours for that, Ryan, but
We'll speed this part up. We'll just go like 2x for this
yeah,
part.
I'll talk really fast. It's fascinating. I used to think it was all about the adventure and climbing mountains, and I still love that. I did actually qualitative research through my PhD program on interviewing past clients, and some simple things came out. And frankly, like it's amazing how nature works. Like people who had come out with us 3-4 years ago would say things like, that moment when I was belaying this person, I learned this thing and I use it every week. You just don't get outcomes like that often. And everyone was saying that. And unfortunately for me, they didn't say it was my amazing teaching skill or facilitation skills. It was a couple things. You're not distracted. You don't have often cell phone service at all, or at least there's an implicit or sometimes explicit agreement that you won't be checking your email. You're going to be there with your team, being intentional, which is hard to recreate in a conference room. And there's this sense of awe around you anywhere you go, really outside, but the places we go, like Joshua Tree or backpacking or sea kayaking on Catalina and seeing whales, like you have awe in a scientific sense of something is much bigger than you, which brings you together in this really magical way. So I think it's funny. Like I see people on teams, they have their constructs, like who speaks when, who's allowed to say what, who's allowed to question things. And people will just speak up and almost look surprised that they said something like, oh yeah, when the CEO does this, it really bothers me. Oh my God, I just said that. And it's half an hour into their experience, which I think is pretty uncommon and really fascinating for me to watch. And it's nature. Is being outdoors with other people. It breaks down all those barriers. puts us all on kind of the same field of like, oh, if we're not heads up here, this mountain could hurt us. Typically it won't. We manage risks and we're all in this together. It's pretty cool.
Do you just take everyone's cell phone at the fire and just throw everyone's cell phone in the fire and that's it?
Okay, we're instead of using this box, we're just gonna go ahead and throw your phones in. I think some people might thank me for that. Honestly,
I think the cell phone is scarier than the mountain. I mean, like I just came back from vacation, and the one thing I have not done, I always shift my email to the last page of my phone, just because I don't want to look at that scary red dot, that circle, or that little circle. And so I have not. I'm recognizing you talked about intentionality. I'm better with that on the back page on my own phone. I'd be less afraid being like, I can actually feel the release going, oh my gosh, like let's go on an adventure with Night and go climb a mountain, which we're obviously we're going to do. We're going to figure this thing out, right? Talk about your first adventure. When you first took a client out in that moment where you're like, oh shoot, like, is this gonna stay? Is this a bad idea? Is this a good idea? Do you have any memories from that first one?
oh gosh, I actually do, and it's around cell phones. Ironically, we were backpacking and climbing in Joshua Tree, and this woman owned a business, and we're probably half a mile into the hike, and she says, "There's cell phone service out here, right?" And I was like, "No, there's not." And she was so nervous about leaving her employees and not being accessible and all these things that come up. And maybe like the one of the points that nudged me toward I'm very confident at this point taking people out. Back then I was like, oh, just like you kind of mentioned, is this going to work? Is everybody going to be okay? Or is this good enough? Is it going to help people? As we were all hiking out, I kind of went up to her and said, hey, are you going to check your email right away? Like, are you excited to be able to check back in? And she's like, no, I think I'm going to leave it off until Monday. Like I don't need to. And what a cool shift for someone, and honestly for her employees, who all of a sudden probably felt a little bit empowered and trusted and all of those other things that come with not checking in all the time on the cell phone. So it was good.
I feel like you can't not have vulnerable moments when you're out in a mountaintop. It's a different level of vulnerability, but it is interesting because I think a lot of my work, which is the metaphorical mountaintop, is a boardroom, right? And you are trying to help a team or at least a leader. Like I do think we're mirrors, right? So if I'm a jerk, guess what I'm going to get back from my team, right? Like, and if I'm vulnerable, then I hope that's what I get back from my team. But is there another like moment that stands out for you where you took a team out? Maybe there was a location that was a little scary, or who knows, maybe there's just a moment where you felt this is cool. We have a vulnerable moment with this team. Is there one that stands out for you that you can share?
Yeah. There are a million, Ryan. There's so many moments, and this is what brings me joy out there is people ask like, what's your favorite trip? And it's not like, if it were about climbing mountains for me, I'd be bored by now. It's not about that. It's about people doing things they didn't think that they could do. And what I think is really interesting, we have called these adventures crux adventures. We talk about the crux, the essence, or the most challenging part in the beginning. And we started asking last year, actually, in the debrief, like, what was your crux? What was the hardest part? And I kind of was worried that everybody's going to say, oh, well, the hike was really hard, or, climbing that rock was really hard. Everybody had the same crux and it would be a dud of a question. And everybody has these radically different answers, like sharing that thing around the campfire that I've never told anyone. And I was telling it to my team, or, sometimes it is the physical thing, or sometimes it's, I had to trust my life to this person belaying me. And I think it's really fascinating. In my head, I thought everybody had the same crux. How much do we do that as leaders? Like, oh, everybody's experiencing this thing the way that I experience it. And in reality, everybody's experiencing it wildly differently. And when I think things are easy, maybe someone else is suffering. And so getting out of my head and understanding where other people are can be really valuable. And this taught me that taking people out and hearing about cruxes. We had a guy sign up to go up Mount Baker to specifically answer your question, who had never climbed a mountain before in his life last summer. It was a process, but we got him up to the top. And this guy, he says, "Hey, can I just kind of scream and like celebrate this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." It was just a really cool moment of like not knowing if you can literally do something for hours, 10 hours, and then being there and knowing that you could. He didn't know that the way down would be harder. So I didn't tell him that, but
Depends what he screams too, I guess. Save me! Help me!
yeah, helicopter.
So the company is called Cairn Leadership, right? Okay, so if you go to Cairn Leadership, that's CAIRN, and at Cairn, I mean, what I think I know about you, so I'm not going to pretend, but like,
Yeah.
you are a very intentional individual, and I'm not surprised that like Cairn symbolizes guidance, direction, and intentional progress, right? And I think it's a
Yeah, it's a trail marker, and actually it was on Mount Washington. I guided a bunch of groups from the Naval Academy up there in just like pea soup, thick fog. And there are these 6 foot tall stacks of stones that the Forest Service put up there to keep people from getting off track. Because if you did, you could fall off cliffs and have some pretty poor consequences. And so I was looking for a name for the company and ice climbing with some of my friends and slash now guides in the company. And we popped up on a bluebird, beautiful day. And there's just this 3 mile long line of cairns that we've been following, still moving from stone stack to stone stack so many times. And it was a cool reminder, like you might not see it, but there is a path there. And the people who know the way kind of build those up, and the people who don't know the way can follow them. And then eventually you become the one who's building them, which is a cool full circle.
do you feel like when you finally landed on the name, you're like, oh, that's it. Yeah, this is it. Or was it let me do a survey and see if this is the right name?
Yeah, I definitely, it resonated immediately with me. My father, for obvious reasons, in ice climbing and mountaineering, said it should be slippery slope leadership, and I immediately knew that wasn't the name. God bless him.
Looks like that URL is available if you still wanted to pivot.
Weirdly, I don't know why someone hasn't snapped that up. Yeah, no, it felt like it was just one of those moments. We crested that ridge and saw that long line. And sometimes when things come that easy, I doubt them. I think, well, is that too easy? But yeah, I love the name and the concept behind it.
So let's play metaphor a little bit here. So if you think about the mountains that you're summiting in life, and I mean like this could be professionally, maybe give me one professionally, give me one personally. Like, what does success look like for you right now in both arenas?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the lessons that the mountains have taught me is that it's not about the summit. It's about being in it. It's about the journey. Because if it's about the summit, you're up there for 10 minutes and it's just miserable to hike up there, even more miserable, spoiler alert, to go back down. But if you reframe that and you're in a beautiful place and you're able to struggle with other people that you care about and have good conversations focused on people and not focus on your cell phone and all the things that you have to do, the journey becomes kind of the point, which is cool. I've always known that I like teaching, but I think a summit for me now, like knowing what you really are passionate about. And I'm passionate about teaching, facilitating, teaching everywhere from like kindergartners in Bible school on Wednesday nights at our church to business school MBAs and strategy to taking executives outdoors. Like there's this through line of teaching. And I think that's a summit for me personally right now, is knowing that that's what I want to do. And so I can focus learning on how to teach people more effectively and how to facilitate better and all of those things instead of scattering my approach. Professionally, I think being able to dial in and figure out quickly exactly what's going on with the team so that we don't waste time. It's amazing to go outside. Nobody's ever going to have a bad experience with us. But if you're investing, frankly, the time for an executive team to go climb a mountain, I want to be working on the right stuff and doing it in a way that it's going to stick. So it goes back to teaching and facilitating and how do you make things stick. But I don't want people to come out and feel good about, oh, we talked about psychological safety and we all feel good and then go back to work and not do things differently.
Yeah, I'm curious because when you go on this adventure that you're on, right? Like you said, it's not about the summit itself; it's the lessons along the way. Gosh, you must have like learned so much crazy stuff about business that you never knew about just from the conversations. And is it, even the crux that you talked about, is that like, all right, we go on, it's kind of what we call the postmortem, right? Like, is this happening in my mind, it's like there's a fire and the climb is done or the belaying is done or whatever it is. Hopefully we're not, am I cooking? Do I have to cook? This is nobody wins if I have to cook at this.
Depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's more lessons in there probably.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what are a few things that you were surprised to learn at that, that postmortem, at those fire moments, those cruxes about business? You're like, oh wow, like that's interesting. This keeps coming up in companies.
Well, the first thing that came to mind, Ryan, like I started this company out of the military. I didn't have a lot of business experience 10 years ago. And I remember the CEO of like a $25 million company talking about imposter syndrome. And I was like, oh, really? Like that's a thing? So back to you and courage. I realized like all these people, we're all figuring it out. Like we look on LinkedIn and we hear about people in the news and we're like, oh my gosh, like they know everything about strategy and they know all the things that they need to know about business. They know exactly what they need to do and what their value proposition is. And we're all just figuring it out and we're all just human. And that's really cool and humbling and also a little bit scary. Like, geez, well, when do we figure it out? Like when's the magic moment? I don't know. But that was pretty helped me out a lot in a lot of ways to see that kind of vulnerability and also be able to share that with other clients. Like, hey, we're just figuring it out. You don't have to be perfect, especially out here. No one's perfect outside.
Well, no one's perfect inside either, right? I think the more we do what we do, and again, I wish you could see my face, people. Like Night sees my face, like the thinking face, because it is. It's you're never done. It's a constant experiment, and you've got these hypotheses going in, but like we find that one of the best things we bring to the table is outside perspective, right? Because when you're stuck in a vertical, by the way, this is if you think about a lot of companies and the way that they hire, right? It's like they're too busy. So I have a 30-minute meeting with a possible candidate for this role. And you're like, well, can I see their resume? And it's like, oh, good. They know this space. They've been in this company for 5 years. And then they've been in this vertical doing it for another 8 years. And then and it's like your merit is how long and how deep you've been in a vertical. And then you get sucked into the language of that vertical where my experience, I mean, we've seen every vertical under the sun at this point. So it's like, yeah, the hospitality business can learn a lot from the hospital business. They just open their eyes, but that's not how we hire. So this is a long adventure to a short point, but I do think bringing outside perspective to the table. I could only imagine once you've sort of Sherpa'd an adventure and you're sitting with them, you have seen these same themes pop up, like imposter syndrome. I'm curious how speed plays in a lot of what you do, because I imagine coming out of the military, right? In some ways, if there's a mission, then how effective, how prepared, right? I mean, you got to finish the mission, but speed plays. But sometimes we get so overwhelmed by speed. Like, where is it that we should go? Hey, leader, like this is a time to slow down in a world that's obsessed with speeding up. Like, are you? I mean, if I don't have access to my cell phone, there's like, clearly, guess what? you're going to have to slow down in the right places. How does speed play in your world?
That's a fascinating question. The first thing I think about is in alpine, as a guide, speed is often a safety measure, right? As it warms up, rockfall becomes a big issue, and you need to move fast. And so sometimes you do things less safely. You might build faster anchors or have less points of security so that you can move faster through a hazard zone, which is kind of counterintuitive. But then other times you have to slow down. Like maybe you slow down and let the sun hit the snow for a longer time so it softens up so that you can climb more effectively, or arrest if someone falls, arrest that fall more effectively, not just be on a sheet of ice. And so knowing when to speed up and slow down is really important. This is not my personal summit. This is something I'm trying hard to do as a human being, as a father, as a business owner, to be able to slow down and more specifically, not hurry. I think there are great leaders, great people who are able to do a lot of different things and not necessarily go slow, but are never hurried. Like if you meet them in the hallway, it's not like, oh, hey, Ryan, like I gotta go, frantic. It's they look you in the eye, they give you the 30 seconds they have, and they're fully there. And I think about that a lot, especially with kids. I want to be present like that. And presence doesn't mean like, oh, I spent the whole week with them, but I'm on my cell phone. It means I spent 10 minutes with them having an impactfully good conversation, and I wasn't on my cell phone, but I was focused completely on them. So I think that slowing down, eliminating that sense of hurry and rushedness is more important than not having things to do. It's less about that.
Maybe this is an unfair follow up because I'm going to force us to go into a time machine and speed up for a second. So
Yeah.
let's say we took our time machine to 2030. How old will your kids be then?
Oh, geez, you're asking me to do math.
I'm sorry,
11,
unfair.
11 and 8 and 5.
Ish.
Yep.
Yeah, 5. Yeah. But from a business standpoint, like what do you think? What do you think the business looks like?
Yeah, well, we have partners already. 2030. Hopefully we're moving to a place where we have a home base in Montana or Washington where people can fly in and start easing into this experience of being outdoors, not just rushing through it. And then creating longer term relationships. So we want to be like a fractional partner, leadership development for a team as they grow to a scale where they need to hire a team to do that for them, helping them figure out what competencies they need, what skills, knowledge, abilities their teams need, and building those things up so that they have that capacity to continue to scale.
When I think about business, I mean, it can get pretty wild out there. And the irony is, you're literally taking people out into the wild. So for starters, what's the most wild thing you've seen in the wild?
Oh my goodness. My immediate reaction on my instructor course for Knowles, we went up onto the Nebezna Glacier in the Wrangell Mountains in Alaska. And this glacier is about 75 miles long and about 10 miles wide. And it's just jaw dropping. It's just this ocean of ice and these giant mountains, 18,000 foot peaks all around. And then we got hammered with storms for like 3 days, just getting up every 2 hours, digging our tents out. And it was an amazing, humbling experience to be out there.
And then the polar bears ate you.
Yeah, no, just a couple people, not me.
That's how you know if you pass the course or not. I do love wildlife. Like my family jokes at me when we go on a trip that I'm the one that's like looking for wildlife in all directions. What have you seen everything under the sun, under the sun?
I haven't seen a polar bear yet. I guided with a woman who worked in Greenland and had to carry shotguns for polar bears, which is pretty badass. But yeah, I think the coolest thing, I was again in Alaska hanging out with some instructors. All our students had gone off on their independent travel, and we saw a wolverine, which you very rarely see, pop up over the ridge. And then another wolverine chased it down the hill, and they just played. They played for like 5 minutes and then ran off. And we're like, did that just happen? That was pretty cool. I also saw an eagle catch a snake in the water kayaking with my family and kids off of Catalina. So that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's how it works. All right.
What level class or company do I need to be at to go with you on this adventure to see something like this?
Yeah, well, we haven't figured out how to put in orders for the wildlife yet, or the weather, honestly. People always thank us for the weather. I'm like, oh, you're welcome, I guess.
Well, but duration's interesting. Like how often, and this might be a trick, like versus a trick question on, how long, like, is it a half day? Is it a full day? Have you taken teams out for a week? Like what's the ideal, if I'm going to take a team out with you, what's like, hey, half day is the bare minimum. What's the ideal situation?
Yeah, great question. Knowles does 30 days. It's amazing. It's life-changing. It's not for business executives. Like you just can't do that. Half day, I think, is too short. I really like 2 nights. I like a day to kind of get into the zone, a full day where you're going to sleep outdoors again, and then a last day where you can kind of make meaning, transition artfully back into the world, make commitments and how you're going to use what we talked about, what we learned. So I think 2 nights works really well. We've done up to 7 days. It's awesome. It's super fun. I also think it's too much. Like I'd rather do 2 or 3 2-night adventures with a team over the course of a year or two. I think you get a lot more out of that continuous drip than doing it all at once in 7 days. But it's fun. And a half day, like you can, if you say like, hey, we want to learn the basics of psychological safety and come up with like 2 things that we can do as a team to create more of it, great. Like we can do a half day. It's not going to be as sticky and it's not going to be profound.
I think I've got one more question for you. It means that there might be a follow-up, but I have a hard time bringing you on the Courageous podcast and then not asking you, what do you fear?
That's a great question. I think about fear a lot. We work with clients on fear. I think I fear wasting talent, time, treasure, not taking the opportunities that have been given to me, not being present as a parent, not which is in a lot of ways really good. Like I do a good job. I work really hard because of it. And also in a lot of ways it's not so good because I spend a lot of time obsessing and worrying about stuff that frankly I can't change. But I think that, like I fear falling on big rock climbs and all those types of things. But those are things that I choose. And it's not even really fair to say I fear it because I chose to be there. I think it's like 20 years down the road, are my kids going to be the type of people that I hope that they are? Or did I waste the opportunity to have those conversations? Or, tomorrow, is my wife going to know that I love her? Or did I waste the opportunity to tell her? All those types of things is what I fear.
I'm glad I gave myself an out to ask you one more question. So this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a bit, where is one place in your life where you need to be more courageous? You didn't think this was going to be a therapy session, did you?
I'm gonna have to detox from the therapy after this. One place where I need to be more courageous. My immediate thought is saying no more. And maybe that's linked back to the wasting, right? I don't, if I say no, like what's the opportunity cost and am I missing out on an opportunity? But the older I get, the more I realize that the opportunities are lost because I said yes to other things. And I need to be able to say, no, that's not like, it's not exactly what I want. Not like, oh, it doesn't quite fit or like, this isn't exactly what I want. And I'm going to say no to it so that I can do exactly what I want. And I think that comes with knowing what you want too, which is a long journey.
You're reminding me of one of my mentors who's been on the show who said, I got to do it in the New York accent because that's how he sounds. He's like, the 2 most underutilized words in business are courage and no. And sometimes it takes courage to say no. And so, yeah, to your point, like saying no to something could free you up to something, a yes down the line. Knight Campbell, founder, CEO. What's the official title? I mean, you're kind of founder and CEO, right? Is that what it is?
Guide. I don't know. Yeah.
Guide.
Managing partner, I think, is the official title. But
Chief Guide Officer. Check out Cairn Leadership, CAIRNLEADERSHIP.com. I am so looking forward to partnering with you on something. It's going to come. I know it's going to come. Very much aligned. Also, I'm very much a scaredy cat. So be careful what wild adventure you take me on. I'll try not to hold up the group.
We'll start in Aspen.
Nothing would make me happier if we could pull that off.
It wouldn't make me sad, Ryan.
All right, Knight. Be good, man. Keep going.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.